Dame Lillard's making his return, and he was out at Adidas campus yesterday. I got this clip from Orlando Sanchez of KGW Channel 8. I believe he and a couple other media members were out there and, just asking Dame on what this is like. It's one thing to be traded, and then it's like, oh, okay, this is weird. I'm not wearing the same uniform. I'm not going to be in that locker room anymore. He's going to a smaller locker room tonight. What's it going to be like on returning? Well, he's here. The game is tonight. Here was Dame yesterday out at Adidas.
I'm just excited to play. Obviously, it was a great time. I loved the organization. I loved everybody that I went to work with every day. And I think what made it the hardest is it wasn't a broken relationship. So coming back is just, being able to be here. I'm in a great situation. The reason it all came about in the first place was for a chance to win it all, and we couldn't be at that place at the same time. So I come back with love, and, I'm excited to be back in the Moda Center. I played so many games that I recognize fans' faces, from the court. So seeing their faces, being back in the building, being back home, I'm excited to play the game, and I'm gonna play the game free. So, we're here to win a game, and that's it.
I'm curious to see how he reacts to this. I said yesterday with Danny on the Jack Ramsey's pod, I was like, the only time I can think in his career where these nerves have been somewhat similar or been to this high a level for him has to be the rookie year first game against Kobe and the Lakers, right?
Probably.
I'm just like, oh my, like he's almost shaking physically because of how internally he's amped for this game. I'd imagine it's something
maybe their
similar.
First playoff series.
That's a good one, but getting a walk off on that. The one thing we saw about him is even if those nerves are high, he internalizes that so well and doesn't allow it to interrupt the game. Swag. He mentions there, how it kind of ended. I want to kind of point out how we got to where we were with him and where we are going. Now, this isn't to say this is the wrong decision and this won't pan out for us. I certainly hear from that crowd and I hear from the others. Yeah, we should have tanked. We were terrible. It was time to end it all. And somebody tell me we had no assets to get better with Dame here. And I just we had top 10 picks in back-to-back years.
Yeah.
But okay, we didn't have the assets. This is a reminder, last trade deadline, I don't know if we'll get to this today, maybe something to carry over for tomorrow. We're not sure if they're going to make a move. Maybe they are, but they also seem like they're okay keeping Jeremy and Malcolm and not making any trades. Here was Joe Cronin at last year's trade deadline when they still had Damian Lillard. This is what he said.
You won't see from this group a lack of trying or a lack of innovation or a lack of creativity. We're going to be ridiculously aggressive to the point where once we push our chips all the way in, like deal to deal, you might look and say, wow, they lost that deal. They gave a lot for that guy. But no, that's just us pushing our chips in. We feel extremely obligated to put a great roster around Damian Lillard. And when I say we, that's from the top. Jody and I have had a lot of conversations about how important it is for us to do right by Damian.
That was 5 months before they traded him. Just a refresher of I know you guys know this, but some of you act like this was a done deal, that they weren't ever trying to build around Dame. And I just wanted to remind people that's what they said.
That was the intention.
Deadline.
So either there was a bold-faced misdirection or they couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, certainly both things possible. That's the only outcome. Here was just a few months later, Joe Cronin at the draft. They drafted a point guard who was 19, and he was asked about Dame still being on the roster with Scoot Henderson.
I think the first thing he said is, yeah, Shaden can swing a little, which helps. But there's naturally 12 minutes right behind Dame where if Ant doesn't swing to the one as often. So you get that. It's still figuring it out, a really important thing in a draft, and we hear it all the time and probably here in Portland more than anywhere. Draft for talent, not need. It's critical, and I just wasn't going to be moved at all by need, especially drafting that high. I was drafting the best player possible, and then we're going to figure it out.
And they did figure it out. They traded Damian Lillard about...
Was he burned by Zach Collins? He was in He was there in the room.
Zach Collins? What are you talking about?
Well, drafting for need versus the best talent available.
Oh, well, I mean, famously, the Zach Collins pick was something Neil wanted and then made up a story about watching Zach Collins at Portland. And there you go. There's Kevin McHale and LaMarcus Aldridge hybrid. Zach Collins, our 10th pick. Trade 2 picks to move up 10 to draft that. Yeah.
But Joe Cronin was part of the staff at that point.
Yeah, but and this isn't to say Joe didn't have any insight or help along the way. I think the one thing I've liked about it is identifying what kind of player he likes. And on that specific pick, knowing what we kind of knew about the previous general manager, I don't know how much say people had on that.
True.
I don't know if that was a big meeting.
Well, not that it was his thing, but he saw what happened when you try to fit something in versus, okay, here's the board.
The best player,
Who do I
right?
think is the third best player in this draft, regardless of position?
I believe Bam was also interviewed a year or 2 or 3 years ago, and he basically was asked, and he said, Portland didn't even talk to me, really. It was not really a thing they were looking at. Like, Bam Adebayo got picked after. Yeah, anyways, not to rehash it too much, but just like, it's crazy how quickly we went from you're going to almost question us and say we lost the trade to put our chips in the middle for Dame to, hey, Dame's coming back tonight as a member of a different team. How do you feel about it? This has only been months. It's not even been a year yet. Sub a year. That all that transpired. What a just turn.
Yeah.
What a turn. And it's not that it's not the right move. Dame's aging, a contract in later years for sure. You can certainly suggest that, hey, there wasn't an all-in move. And that's a fair point. Maybe the asking price for certain players was ridiculous, and almost everybody here was like, don't give up that. OG's been pretty good for the Knicks. I want to say they're 14-2 since they traded for him.
Yeah, but he just got hurt.
I know. But I'm just saying, like, there were moves. It was just a matter of, was the asking price too much? But Portland's going in tonight, 14-33. Dame making his return. And so we'll have to wait and see. Looked like a pretty cool event, too, that Casey Holdall and Bruce Eli had on yesterday. The photographs, Dame's time in Portland. And it wasn't basketball photos necessarily. It was just his time in Portland.
Yeah.
Personal photos, photos of different fits and life on the road and whatnot. So that seemed like it was a pretty cool event. I had heard about that late, but I had basketball practice, so I couldn't go to it. But he's making his return, and it's going to make people that love this team, the truly diehards.
All sorts of emotions.
I'm curious how many Lillard Blazer jerseys we see in it.
I would think so.
Does Ant try to bust his ass like little brother against big brother?
I would hope Ant's geared up for it.
Yeah, me too. He's had a shaky little couple games here. Hopefully snaps out of that and plays well against Damian Lillard.